Hello, everyone. So, just as promised, this is going to be my Avengers Endgame review, and there's not really a whole lot I can say about it without spoiling anything. Like, I was kind of thinking beforehand about like being vague about certain things, but even then, it still might give something away. So, this is going to be like super duper vague and actually pretty short too. So, I'm actually going to start off with this little bit of a story that I realized on the way going to the theater. Typically, I don't really go to like premieres or like opening weekend or anything like that because I don't really like big crowds. Typically, and for the longest time, I didn't actually go to any premieres or opening weekends or anything like that. Anyways, the first time I decided to make an exception was for X-Men Origins Wolverine. And it wasn't like I was particularly excited to see the movie. I was really just bored. I was up, I was bored. It was close to midnight, so I was like, you know what? I'll go check it out. And I was fairly disappointed with it. I don't hate it as much as most people do, but it definitely wasn't good. And it does kind of suck that that was my first like premiere experience. But I was like, whatever. A couple of years later, I went to see The Dark Knight Rises because I loved The Dark Knight a lot. So when The Dark Knight Rises was coming out, I was super excited, could not wait to see it. So I went to the, opening premiere, and I was even more disappointed with that one than I was with X-Men Origins Wolverine. I know a lot of people like it, but I just felt it was completely uninspired. They just copy a lot of the same things they did in the first two films, so I really did not like it at all. I was very disappointed, especially with how good The Dark Knight was. The third premiere I went to was for Man of Steel. I worked at Walmart at the time, and they were having this Walmart was having these like special tickets go on sale. It was like the day before, and the tickets were cheaper. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna check this out. And I went and I hated Man of Steel even more than The Dark Knight Rises because at least with The Dark Knight Rises, I liked Bane. I didn't like anything else, but at least I liked Bane. There was nothing I liked in Man of Steel. I didn't think the story was good. I thought the ideas were good, but the actual like execution of the ideas I thought was absolutely terrible. I didn't find any of the characters interesting. It's like one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. So after that, I decided that I wasn't going to go to premieres or opening weekends anymore. And I had totally forgot about this until we were already on the way to see Avengers Endgame. And we had already bought the tickets. We were already on our way. So I was like, ah, crap. But luckily, thank you, Marvel. You have broken the curse because this film was amazing. Now, the majority of reviews for this film are pretty close to being the same. Like, the overall opinion of the film is pretty much universal. And normally, I'll try to be different than the majority. And in this case, I really can't think of a way to do that. Again, at least without spoiling anything. So basically, a lot of people have said that the beginning is a little slow. It's a 3-hour movie. The first 2 hours, it does sort of seem a little bit long, which did bother me at first until I realized just how much they were doing. Because after the film was over and me and my wife were driving back, I was kind of thinking about like how they're going to do future things, and particularly the TV shows. There are certain things where I was like, gosh, I wonder how that's going to work. And then she's like, well, babe, remember this happened? And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I kind of started thinking like, oh, well, there's also this thing that happened. And then there's this thing that happened. And I didn't realize just how clever it was and just how many things were going on until later when I had a little bit of time to let everything marinate. So keep that in mind, that even if it does seem slow, trust me, there is just so much going on here. It's actually impressive they were able to do it within 3 hours. Like, this is one of the only movies where I can say, yeah, they give you all this information in only 3 hours. It's actually impressive that it's only a 3-hour movie. And just the amount of things that they're not only setting up, but the amount of things that they're paying honor to, that they're referencing. And you also have to keep in mind too that this is the 22nd film, in the MCU, and it's wrapping everything up. So this is wrapping up 21 films, and they touch on everything. So again, it actually is pretty impressive that it's only a 3-hour movie. And then of course you have the last hour or so. I think it's probably closer to 45 minutes. Most people are saying it's about an hour. I think it's probably closer to 45 minutes. But regardless, if you've seen Civil War, there's that really great airport scene, and everyone talks about it because not only is it really cool action, but there's all these like surprises and cheering moments. You know, like Spider-Man shows up, and it's the first time we've ever seen Spider-Man in the MCU. So you're like, yeah, Spider-Man, and the Ant-Man gets all big, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. You know, and you have all these cheering moments. This movie does that for probably about 45 minutes straight. Like, it probably is the last hour because there's about maybe 15 minutes or so of like other stuff, but there's like a good 45-minute chunk where you're just doing that like almost constantly, which is pretty damn impressive. And again, there's certain things that I kind of want to hint at, be like, oh, you know, I wanted to see that, you know, but I just can't. I can't with the, you know, otherwise it might spoil something, or, you know, I can't be vague enough. I really, really want to go into detail about it more, but I can't without potentially spoiling anything. So that's all I'll say. So basically, it is a little slow in the beginning, but there's so much going on. It's still really good, even though it's a little bit slower. It's still really good stuff. There's so much going on. It's a lot more clever than I realized at first. You know, there's like a lot of things that I didn't realize just how clever it was until like later on. And then, yeah, that last hour or so is just wish fulfillment galore. And yeah, that's really all I can say about it without, again, potentially spoiling anything. So I'll leave it at that. See you next time.